Today marks the 7th wedding anniversary of my husband and I. For our honeymoon, we had went on a 12-day cruise around Europe in the summer. The cruise had been extremely relaxing and a very nice getaway from our drowsy, gray hometown. Well, it had only been relaxing for the first few days anyway. It was the 3rd day of the cruise, and today was the day we were docked in France. We got off the ship and it was a beautiful sunny day with rain in the afternoon. We had an excursion booked for a Segway tour along the French Riviera, and we couldn't be more excited. We got up early so we could arrive at our tour ahead of time and make sure we had everything ready to go. Everything was fine, and our tour guide was a very nice man, about 30 years old I'd say. He had brunette hair and it was cut in that trendy style everyone had. He seemed to be particularly nice to me, and I could see jealousy flourish in my new husband's eyes. We had brushed it off and went along with the tour. The tour was very pleasant, and we took a ton of pictures all over the Riviera. The tour was over about 3 hours later, and our legs were tired from standing on the segways the whole time. The tour guide offered to take a picture of the two of us right before we left, and he took one with his phone as well as ours. We questioned why he used his phone, and he just responded with, "For the company." We got back to the ship after an afternoon of sightseeing and shopping and had dinner in the dining room. Before dinner, I had to go up to the suite floor and was greeted by the cleaning staff as usual and got ready for dinner. When I got back down to the dining room, I met my husband, who had already gotten 2 glasses of wine for us. Our dinner consisted of a very high-quality steak and a dessert made fit for a king. It was delightful. We went out after that to a bar and got a couple drinks while we listened to live music. This was turning out to be a great night, and it was super exciting to be on a cruise with my newlywed husband. My husband had gone to the bathroom after a little while, and a man who looked strangely familiar offered to buy me a drink. I didn't pass this up because drinks on this ship were very expensive, even for the suite guests. We chatted for a while, and once my husband returned, he joined in on the conversation. The man eventually left, and my husband turned to me with a confused expression on his face. I asked him what was wrong, and he said, "Wasn't that our Segway tour guide?" I suddenly made the connection. That's why he looked so familiar. Then I was extremely confused as well, but we ended up just making the conclusion that he was a worker from the excursion desk that was part of the excursion. My husband and I went back to our room to get ready for bed, as it was getting extremely late, 2 a.m. almost. We both got undressed and cuddled up in our underwear. We didn't talk much. We just mentioned the Segway tour guide again and fell asleep in each other's arms. The next day, we wake up early and go to yoga. Yoga is one of our favorite things to do together, ever since we were in high school, in fact. Yoga was super relaxing, and it was a great start to our day at sea. There is not that much to do for adults during the day at sea, so we decide that we will lay out by the pool until the nighttime activities begin. We eat our breakfast at the buffet the ship provides for all of the guests on board. After our breakfast, we decide to go grab some lounge chairs, since all of the good ones fill up quickly. By this time, it's only 9 a.m., so there weren't that many people out yet. My husband grabbed us some lounge chairs while I went back to the room to change. When I went to the suite hallway, I am greeted by the cleaning staff as usual, and another person as well. This was the same Segway tour guide as yesterday. This made me nervous, as he seemed to be following me down my hallway and toward my room. I sped up a little, and the man must have noticed because he stopped and turned to walk in another direction. I got changed for the pool, and I took a different route to get back down because I didn't want that creep to see me in my bathing suit, and I certainly didn't even want to see him again. I finally got to my husband, where I threw myself into his arms, and he asked me what was wrong. I told him about the man and how he was in the suite hallway and following me. He looks terrified for a second, then a rush of anger followed across his face. My husband promised me that I would never see that man again, and I sure hoped that he was right. We continued on with our day, getting some sun, eating lunch, getting a couples massage. It was a nice day besides my encounter in the morning. I luckily never saw him again that day. We went to dinner, went back to the bar, and went back to our room. We got back a little earlier than usual because we wanted to have some fun, but that was interrupted with an insanely annoying pounding coming from the hallway outside. It stopped after what felt like 10 minutes, and we heard a key card scan over our lock. The door was locked with an extra lock, thankfully, but whoever tried to get in needs to realize that we have our own private room for a reason. We decided just to lay in bed for a while and talk about things. The Segway guide came up in conversation, and we thought it was extremely weird for him just to show up on the ship like that. We ended up falling asleep after some time and woke up to more pounding at about 4 a.m. and another keycard swipe after a 10-minute pounding session. The door was still locked, so that person couldn't get in. We fell back asleep and woke up around 10 that morning. We immediately went down to the guest service desk asking for another room, but all the rooms were booked, so we didn't have much hope for getting a different room. We explained to the staff what happened, and they went over to the camera footage and said they saw nothing and that it must have been a dream or something. It most definitely was not a dream, and they probably were just saying that to avoid the hassle of getting a new room. This was frustrating, but we didn't let it ruin our day or vacation because it was our honeymoon. Today we were in Germany, and we didn't have anything planned, so we just went and walked around to different sightseeing places and shopped for a while. We got back on the ship right when it was time for dinner. We both headed up to our room to change for dinner. As we walked through the suite hallway, it felt like someone was watching us, even as we were getting changed and ready for dinner. We went to dinner and talked a lot about the events that had been happening, although we had a feeling they weren't over yet. We didn't go out to a bar that night and headed straight to bed due to our lack of sleep the last night. Nothing unusual happened during the night, but there was still an odd feeling about someone watching us. It was day 6 and another day at sea. We woke up and did yoga again, only not as early as the other day. We went out to the pool deck and ordered a couple margaritas. We had a late start to begin with, so by the time we did yoga, ate breakfast, and got ready to hang out by the pool, it was already noon. We ended up going to the buffet for lunch, and all was normal. We had gotten used to that same feeling of someone watching us, but we still couldn't figure anything out. The vacation was good at the beginning, but now we were just paranoid. We couldn't seem to relax at all. We went to dinner as usual, like every other day, and we went to the casino afterwards, this time. We sat down at the blackjack table to play, obviously, and after a few hands, my husband went to the room to grab more money for drinks and playing. As soon as my husband left the table, the dealer decided to go on break, and the next dealer was out at the table. You would never guess who it was. The Segway Guide. I just about screamed as soon as I saw him and ran up to my room. My husband was still there, and I threw myself into his arms. This man kept following us around, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one pounding on our door the other night either. This man needs to stay out of our business and our lives because he was starting to creep us out. We decided to just get a couple drinks and hang out in our room for the rest of the night. We fell asleep shortly after our 4th drink. In the middle of the night, however, I woke up because I had to use the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, which was quite large due to it being in a suite. It was late at night, so I wasn't very aware of my surroundings. Once I finished in the bathroom, I heard a thump come from the shower. I thought it was just the boat rocking, so something must have fell. I turned on the light near the mirror and saw how horrid my face looked. I cupped my hands and splashed the chilling water over my face to try to wash away the drowsiness. I looked back up to the mirror and saw a figure standing in the doorway to the bathroom. I figured it was my husband and asked him why he was up. The figure came towards me and I realized it wasn't my husband. I did what I could to get away from the man, and my husband woke up, punched him in the gut, and shoved him outside our room. Being on a cruise ship and having this happen is absolutely horrible. You are stuck on the ship with all of the same people, and you can't just jump off because you will probably drown or get sucked under by the propellers of the ship. Looking back on it now, the man in my bathroom had to have been the Segway guy because he seems to have been following us everywhere. The questions I had were, how did he get in my room? How long was he in my room? And why did he keep following me around? For the rest of the cruise, my husband went with me everywhere and never left my side. There was one occasion, however. It was the night of the 9th day, and it was after dinner. I was way more tired than my husband, and he wanted to get a few drinks, so I let him go to the bar and I went up to our room. The elevators on the ship were made of either mirrors or glass on the inside, depending on where they were on the ship. On this occasion, I took a mirrored elevator, and I was the only one in the elevator when I got on. So I thought. The elevator suddenly stopped, and I thought this must be my floor, and I am getting off now. The doors never opened, and I was too tired to stand anymore, so I decided to sit down on the floor after hitting the emergency button. I guess I must have fell asleep, because I suddenly woke up. I was still in the elevator, and it was still not moving, and the door was not open. I started to freak out now because I am highly claustrophobic, and there are mirrors surrounding me. The lights started to flicker, and the elevator started to shake, and I was thinking about how I just let my husband go drink, and how I forgot to tell him I loved him when I left. This could be my end. I'm going to die in an elevator. It was about 45 minutes of no movement, then the lights shut off. I am surrounded by mirrors in an enclosed space, and I could summon anything just by saying anything in the darkened mirrors. All of a sudden, I heard a bang, and the lights turned back on. I looked around at my reflection everywhere, and all I could see were multiples of me, and nothing else. Then I turned around one more time, and there was a figure that had appeared in midair, it seemed. The man was wearing a hoodie, and the hood was up so his face was dark. He undid his hood, and it was the Segway Man yet again. I got all serious now, not really frightened anymore, because what could he actually do to me? I yelled at him, "What do you want from my husband and I?" He responded, "Nothing, just you." And he began coming toward me in the small elevator. He tried pinning me up against the wall and grabbing me. I started screaming, and I kept hitting the fire alarm button and the emergency button, and I couldn't do anything else but wait and hope that this man didn't do anything else. The man was just about to rip my pants off when the doors finally opened. I ran out, and security grabbed the guy and put him in handcuffs, which he deserved. I ran to find my husband and jumped into his arms with a sigh of relief. This man was finally being locked up or put somewhere where he couldn't hurt anyone anymore. For the rest of the cruise, we sat out on the pool chairs and didn't get off the ship at the rest of the stops. This was the last cruise we were taking, and the last time we went on any tours with a tour guide who we had never heard of. There was still one question on my mind though. Why did we get a room for 3 when there were only 2 of us?